Hey, Chris Cantelmo here with another vibration. So, in the last few videos, I've talked about my friend Coma David, who passed away just recently, and I've been thinking about the times that David came over to my place and vaped DMT, and he was not a stoner type or a psychedelics type at all, because he had heart issues. He really didn't partake in anything except healthy living, really. And when I first met, I met him. He was an Uber driver, and early on in this whole DMT thing, I started using Uber just to go from my place into town. When I decided to stop using my motorcycle, I got freaked out on my motorcycle after driving it on the freeways for years and years, and had a real close call, and I said, you know what, I'm going to give my motorcycle a break for a while. So I started using Uber. And one day David came and picked me up, and we got to talking just in a 5-minute drive into town. And it turned out we had a lot in common. And I said, hey, you know what? Have you ever heard of DMT? And he says, what? And I said, dimethyltryptamine. It's an incredible compound. And I said, it's a psychedelic that lasts for just like 2 minutes. And he told me a story about his father, a first-generation gentleman from Taiwan who did LSD at a Grateful Dead show in the late 60s, early 70s. And anyway, we got to talking, I was going into town to get some, I think it was going to the bank or something. And he came back to my place, and I turned him on to DMT. And I gave him, a few pointers ahead of time, saying sort of what to expect. But you can't really ever know what to expect because he wasn't a psychedelics guy. And so I'm going to tell you a couple of some of the feedback that I got from David after he had done. This is going to be sort of like a synthesis of a bunch of his experiences. He probably did it with me, I don't know, 20 or 30 times. And what I really loved about David was he was fearless. Like almost everybody, like literally everybody else who I've turned on to DMT has been so cautious. It's like almost unbearable, where people taste it and they don't inhale, they just suck it into their mouth, and they're like, oh, it tastes terrible. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't taste great. It's not supposed to taste. It's not. You don't do DMT for the taste. Just get it. You suck it into your lungs so you don't taste it. Don't even get me started on these people who don't know how to inhale DMT. You're gonna find it's very annoying. So, but David, what a champ. I would load a large quantity up for him, and I sort of gave him the way I like to introduce people to DMT is to show them, basically do a quick little demonstration of how to vape how to create vapor and inhale it. And then once they sort of know the drill, I like to get out of their sight. I like to go into the background or walk away a little bit. And at my place, my two dogs, Jed and Clementine, are always, if I have a new friend over, a guest over, they want to play with that person. So what I tend to do is set someone up, show them the ropes, and then run out to the way back of the yard or something, bring the dogs with me, and give some peace and quiet and alone time with the person doing DMT. Because what you're going to find with DMT is that you go into the experience, and if anything distracts you, it takes you out of it. It's very interesting. With other psychedelics, once you're in it, doesn't matter what happens, you don't get taken out of it really. Or with DMT, when you're in that beautiful place, if the doorbell rings or your phone rings or a dog comes running up, you get taken out of it. So I showed David the ropes, and I expected him to be like other people who, you know, do a little bit and have trouble and don't like the taste. David just went whole hog. I mean, I would load up a large amount and expect to come back and find most of it there, and I would come back and it would all be gone. I'd be like, holy crap, this guy is a champion. And David would do these huge excursions, and I would come back and there would be David with this smile, just a smile as wide as the, you know, I don't even know how to say it, just a smile as wide as a smile can get. And beatific, just in heaven. And I remember the first time he said he was sitting in my back on my porch looking to the north, and about 15 feet in front of him was this big walnut tree I have. It might be maybe 25 feet tall. And sitting where he was, with the walnut tree there's plenty of blue sky above the walnut tree if you're sort of looking in that direction. And he said what I have experienced, that he said when the DMT came on, that walnut tree got so big, so far extended, that it blocked his view of the blue sky. And that's something that I talk about all the time, where things get bigger. They don't get magnified. There's a lot more to that. There's a lot more to that tree that's visible in the standard serotonin-mediated perception. So David said, that thing got so big, I couldn't even see the sky. And he talked about how the trees came alive and they were talking to him. And how these plants were basically doing dances for him, and glowing with these rainbow outlines. And he was just always so ecstatic when he came out of these. And I've got, and sometimes Jed and Clementine would run up to him, and he talked about how he knew it was Jed and Clementine. They had their regular form, but surrounding them was this glow, like a very bluish aura. Really wasn't like an aura, because that's what living things get. They get an aura. And I've seen it around my dogs too. It's a very bluish, blue-gray aura. And one experience he had, I've got these guinea fowl. I've got a bunch of chickens and ducks and geese and a bunch of guinea fowl. And guinea fowl, I don't know if you've ever seen them, they got these like jowls, they're real fleshy faces, and very otherworldly. I mean, they're very alien looking. So I set him up with the pipe. I went off and took my dogs off in the back, and came back a couple of minutes later, and there was David just saying, that bird was talking to me telepathically. I think he's me, and I'm him. And it was just such a classic DMT experience, because you really do, it's not an illusion either. You connect with that cosmic consciousness where all sentient beings, there's a commonality, there's a dwelling space that we all share. Even like this bird, very different creature than a human being, but somehow you connect with that. Right? And anyone who's done DMT, you know what I'm talking about. And anyone who hasn't, you can't even imagine it, but you will. It's really a beautiful thing. That connection with, when people say we're all one and we're all one, there's a core of truth to that. And after I had a very sort of intense interaction with what I call a feline insect, alien creature in my backyard. I've talked about this before in other videos, where this incredibly fascinating alien creature has a feline body and like an insectoidal head, somewhat like a praying mantis head, and these antennae that come out. And at the end of the antennae are these little flies, sort of mosquito-type flies that are attached to the end of the antennae. So these things fly around and they bring the antennae with them. And when they're in my backyard, when I see those flies, if I vape DMT, that alien is there, so they're connected. And somehow the flies are visible in serotonin-mediated existence, perception, but the rest of the alien only is apparent in the DMT space. So I saw these flies under a pine tree in my backyard, and I said, David, sit in that chair and vape right here. And sure enough, he vaped. And when I came back after a couple of minutes, he said, it was like a crocodile thing. He said a crocodile thing with these antennae, and there were little ones around it. And he started talking about these, basically describing a similar type shape. He called it a crocodile. I saw it as like more feline, but it definitely is reptilian too. And it was just so amazing to hear him echo sort of the ideas that, my understanding of what I had seen in a similar state. And anyway, I did a lot of DMT with David, and I was so amazed at this guy who was barely alive because of his heart. He had this really terrible heart condition. His sister died very young of a similar condition, but David was all in. And I'm gonna really miss him terribly. This guy, David. Anyway, I kind of forget where I even started on this one, but if you guys, those of you who have done DMT, it's so amazing. It's so good to be in the same role with you guys. And those who haven't, I'm kind of jealous of you guys that you have all of this new discovery in front of you, because no matter how fantastic are the trip reports and the descriptions that you hear, it doesn't even, words cannot describe. Chris Cantelmo here with another vibration. See you soon.